On a lonely cliff above the water in the far south of Egypt, 4 giant figures sit carved from living rock, each as tall as a 6-story building, gazing out across the desert as they have for more than 3,000 years. This is one of the boldest monuments the ancient world ever raised, a temple hewn straight into a mountainside by a pharaoh who wished to be remembered as a god. Welcome to the great temples of Abu Simbel. We are in ancient Nubia in the far south of Egypt, close to the border with Sudan, on the western shore of Lake Nasser, where the great reservoir now spreads across what was once the valley of the Nile. This is a hot, remote frontier land of sandstone and open desert, far from the famous sights of the north. Here, where Egypt looked out toward the lands beyond its southern edge, Ramesses the Great chose to carve his most ambitious temples into the rock. Before us rise the 4 colossal statues that guard the entrance to the great temple, each seated figure of Ramesses II standing about 20 meters high. They were not built up from blocks and set in place. They were cut directly out of the sandstone cliff, so that the temple and its guardians are one with the mountain itself. To stand at their feet on the shore of the lake is to feel impossibly small beneath a wall of stone kings. All around lies the desert, pale and endless, meeting the deep blue of the water at a hard, bright line. In ancient times, the Nile ran below this cliff, and travelers moving up the river would have seen the Colossi appear suddenly out of the rock, a breathtaking announcement of Egyptian power at the edge of the land. This was the southern frontier, the meeting place of Egypt and Nubia, and the perfect stage for a monument meant to be seen and remembered. The temples belong to Ramesses II, known as Ramesses the Great, a pharaoh of the 19th dynasty who ruled around the 13th century before our era. He reigned for an extraordinarily long time and filled Egypt with monuments to his name, yet few are as daring as this. Carved here at the southern edge of his kingdom, Abu Simbel was a message to the peoples of Nubia to the south, a declaration in stone of the reach and the might of the pharaoh who made it. Here rises the Great Facade, 4 immense seated figures of the king side by side, their calm faces turned forever toward the rising sun. Between and around their legs stand smaller carved figures of the royal family, dwarfed by the giants above them. Along the top of the cliff runs a row of carved baboons greeting the dawn, and above the doorway the sun god is shown in stone. Every surface was shaped to overwhelm the visitor with the glory of the king and his gods. We enter through the doorway into the darkness of the mountain, and the great hall opens before us. 2 rows of towering pillars line the way, and against each stands a statue of the king in the pose of the god Osiris, ruler of the afterlife, watching over all who pass between them. The great temple was dedicated to the gods Ra-Horakhti, Amen, and Ta, and to the deified king himself. Deeper and deeper it reaches, hall after hall, straight into the heart of the rock. The walls of the temple are covered in carved scenes and hieroglyphs, a vast painted story cut into the living stone. Here the king is shown triumphant in battle, riding his chariot and offering to the gods, his deeds spread across the walls for eternity. Rows of sacred symbols and figures march through the dim halls, once bright with color, telling the world who this pharaoh was and how he wished to be remembered. It is a library of stone, written for the gods and the ages. At the very back, deepest inside the mountain, lies the sacred sanctuary, where 4 seated statues of the gods and the king wait in the dark. And here the builders worked a wonder of astronomy. Twice each year, around the 22nd of February and the 22nd of October, the rising sun sends a single shaft of light straight through the entire length of the temple to strike the figures at the back, lighting the gods within. Only one of the 4, a god of the underworld, is left forever in shadow. Beside the great temple stands a second, smaller temple, and it holds a rare tenderness. Ramesses dedicated it to his beloved wife, Queen Nefertari, and to the goddess Hathor. Its facade carries 6 standing figures, and here, remarkably, the statues of the queen are carved the same towering height as those of the king, an honor almost never granted. It is one of the very few temples an Egyptian pharaoh ever raised to his queen, a monument of stone to a love meant to last forever. For long centuries, the temple slept. The desert crept in and the drifting sand rose against the cliff until it buried the Colossi almost to their shoulders, and the doorway of the great temple vanished from sight. Local Nubians knew the giants in the sand, but to the wider world they were lost, until a European traveler was led to the spot in the early 19th century, and the great heads were seen again rising from the dune. Slowly the sand was cleared, and the temples returned to the light. Then, in the middle of the 20th century, came a threat greater than the sand. Downstream, Egypt began to build the Great Aswan High Dam, and behind it the waters of the Nile would rise into an enormous reservoir, the lake we see today. That rising water would drown the entire valley of Lower Nubia, and Abu Simbel, standing on its ancient shore, would vanish beneath the flood forever. The monuments that had survived 3,000 years now faced being lost beneath a man-made sea. What followed was one of the greatest feats of engineering ever attempted for the sake of the past. Nations came together in an international effort led by UNESCO to save the temples from the water. Engineers and workers cut the entire cliff face and both temples into thousands of enormous numbered blocks, carefully carving apart the colossi and the halls, piece by piece, so that the mountain of stone could be lifted away before the rising lake reached it. Then, on higher ground safely above the new shoreline, the temples were built again. Block by block, the colossi were reassembled and the halls rejoined, set back together exactly as they had stood for millennia, facing the same sunrise. An artificial hill of concrete was raised behind them to recreate the cliff into which they had once been carved. When it was done, the solar alignment still held, the dawn light still reaching the sanctuary within, the whole wonder saved and standing anew. And so the temples endure, guarding the shore of Lake Nasser as they once guarded the Nile. The four great kings sit calm above the water, the desert stretching behind them, the sun still climbing each morning to touch their faces. Here stand 3,000 years of ambition and belief, twice saved, first from the sand and then from the flood, a monument to a pharaoh who wished to be remembered as a god, and who, in the end, truly is. Four giant kings carved from a cliff, a hidden sanctuary lit by the rising sun, and a rescue that lifted a mountain to save it. Thank you for watching. Follow for more interesting people, places, and things we cover on the channel.